Hey, what's up, y'all? So, in this video, we're going to talk about public corruption and what you can do as a civilian to go after bullying in our society, because that's what public corruption is. There's something known as the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. All right? Some folks are going to say, whoa, Anton, isn't that what the feds use to go after the mafia? Yeah. There's also civil RICO. And you may or may not have heard of companies or corporations using civil RICO to go after their competition. That happens often. And more often than not, those cases are dismissed as usually they're frivolous and used as a kind of like intimidation tactic. However, depending on your investigative efforts, you may have a really good RICO case against an accused or a defendant, right? So, Title 18 of the U.S. Code, Section 1961, lists all the crimes that suffice in establishing a RICO. All that's required are two predicate acts that have to be committed within a 10-year time range from one another. What's interesting about RICO is that not only can you name, obviously, the enterprise, okay, that's necessary, that there's an enterprise and there are individuals in connection to the enterprise that are engaged in criminal activities to further the enterprise, right? But separate from the enterprise. So, for example, unions would often engage in certain criminal activity to further what is otherwise legitimate activity or a legal company or organization, but the activities in connection to the furtherance of the enterprise may not be legal and thus would satisfy RICO violations. So another example would be with the music industry. Let's say you have a record label, legitimate business, right? Legally registered company and all. And then you have individuals that work for the record label directly or indirectly, or even affiliates engaged in illegal activities such as anything listed in Section 1961, but in furtherance of legitimate business activity, which is the enterprise, right? Extortion, for example, right? Let's say you got people that work for a record label that are going around extorting their competition or something, so they can get more business. That would suffice. Also, what's interesting is you can go after affiliates or associates to an enterprise, but those could be separate incidents. Like these are not people that have to be involved like collectively. You could have individuals that are committing predicate acts that would suffice a RICO, but these individuals are acting independently, so long as you can establish that they're doing so in furtherance of the enterprise. All right? So just by mere association to the enterprise, you can establish a RICO. So again, that's Title 18 U.S. Code, Section 1961. What we get in public corruption oftentimes is securities fraud, and that would generally fall under the authority of the Security Exchange Commission. And oftentimes that's not something that's used in civil RICO anymore. I don't know why. You can, but it's just the courts don't want to deal with allegations of securities fraud because they have the Security Exchange Commission, and you can also file a whistleblower complaint with the SEC if you have knowledge that a municipality, for example, is in violation of the Security Exchange Act of 1933 and 1934. That deals with insider trading, municipal bond fraud, etc. You can try to incorporate that into the predicate acts of a RICO, of a civil RICO, but it's just not something that the courts like in their favor. Point being is that civil RICO is a very powerful tool, and you can file a civil RICO as a private attorney general. All right, that means that you're basically taking a matter that's in the best interest of the public. You're not doing it for your own selfish gain. And then with RICO, whatever monetary value you're going after, if you win, you get treble damages. So whatever you're asking for is going to be 3 times as much as your initial claim with a RICO. So if you're going after $1 million, you're going to get $3 million, and so forth. And you can act as a private attorney general and basically file on behalf of the community. And the private attorney general doctrine is something that even some states have their own version of that. For example, the state of California has their own private attorney general doctrine, as such deals with labor law fraud. So in the state of California, if you go after somebody not under a RICO but under their California statutes, as such pertains to labor law, you can do so as a private attorney general without having to be a legal expert. I would obviously, unless you have experience as a paralegal or an attorney, I would also hire a civil attorney. But the point being is that you can act as a private attorney general on behalf of the public, or let's say folks that you've worked with and were also defrauded of monies owed to you by the accused in a labor law dispute. So that's also another way to go about going after corruption, public corruption especially. You can act as a private attorney general, not necessarily in a civil RICO, but using other statutes as well. But I'm going to do an entire series on the Racketeer, Influence, and Corrupt Organizations Act. I think this is a great tool that was devised to empower the public and to encourage our community to be more proactive, in going after public corruption, because you have instances often of allegations as such deal with public corruption, and it's no good. We can't have our municipalities going under as a result of this kind of fraud and a mockery made of public office. So I encourage everyone to go out there, get proactive, get some investigative experience. I have the law enforcement, public safety, and investigator experience, as well as a bachelor's in criminal justice. But I would encourage everyone just to get minimal training as a PI, or get an associate's degree maybe in criminal justice, or a criminal justice related field like Homeland Security, or just take independent standalone criminal justice courses at your local community college. But civil RICO is the way to go. I'm going to do an entire presentation on this because now I'm excited, and I'll probably put together a training seminar also on Udemy or something. But thank you guys for tuning in. Hit that like button, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, the Podcast Ninja. Tune into my podcast. You can message me on WhatsApp. And until next time.